Amanda Davis stood at the firing line of Fort Rucker's qualification range, her auburn hair pulled back in a tight regulation bun as she struggled to align the sights on her M9 pistol. Around her, Army aviation candidates exchanged skeptical glances as she fired another round that missed the silhouette target completely at a mere 15 yards. "Davis, what the hell was that?" barked Chief Warrant Officer Jenkins, the senior firearms instructor, his voice carrying across the Alabama training grounds. "You couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from the inside. How did you even make it through basic?" The other candidates suppressed their laughter, but their smirks were unmistakable. What none of them knew was that hidden beneath Amanda's long-sleeved ACU uniform was a tattoo that would make every instructor on that base snap to attention. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe that heroes come in the most unexpected forms, don't forget to subscribe. The morning had started like any other at Fort Rucker's Army Aviation Center of Excellence. The July heat was already oppressive at 7:30 a.m. as Amanda and 23 other candidates assembled for their annual weapons qualification. As the Army's premier helicopter training facility, Fort Rucker focused primarily on flight skills, but every soldier still needed to maintain basic marksmanship proficiency. For most candidates, the pistol qualification was a formality, a brief distraction from their real passion of flying. But for Amanda, it had become a recurring nightmare. "Listen up," Chief Jenkins announced, pacing in front of the formation. "Today's qualification is straightforward, 20 rounds at varying distances, minimum 16 hits for a pass. Anyone who fails will be recycled to remedial training, which means missing your scheduled flight hours." He paused, his eyes settling on Amanda. "Some of you might want to pay extra attention." Amanda felt her cheeks burn as several candidates glanced in her direction. Her reputation had preceded her, the aviation candidate who somehow couldn't shoot straight. She'd already been through remedial training twice, each time barely scraping by with the minimum score. Today was her final chance before a formal review board would assess her suitability to continue in the program. As the first relay took their positions, Amanda hung back, methodically checking and rechecking her pistol. Her hands moved with surprising confidence through the inspection process. "Drop the magazine, lock the slide back, verify the chamber is empty, check for obstructions in the barrel." It was a stark contrast to her performance once live ammunition was involved. "Davis, you're up," Jenkins called after the first group finished. "Lane 4. Amanda stepped forward, her heart pounding as she loaded her magazine and assumed her firing stance. She could feel Jenkins watching her closely, likely anticipating another dismal performance. "Shooters ready," came the range officer's command. "You may fire when ready." Amanda raised her pistol, focusing on the fundamentals she'd been taught. Grip, sight alignment, breathing, trigger control. She squeezed the trigger gently. The shot went wide right, missing the silhouette entirely. "Jesus Christ, Davis," Jenkins muttered, just loud enough for her to hear. "It's like you're actively trying to miss." Amanda's next 4 shots weren't much better. One clipped the edge of the target. Technically a hit, but barely. The others disappeared into the berm behind. As the distance increased for the next stage, her performance grew even worse. By the final relay, Amanda had connected with only 7 of her 20 shots, far below the 16 required to pass. As she safed her weapon and stepped back from the firing line, the weight of failure settled heavily on her shoulders. "Davis, my office at 1 p.m., Jenkins said, not bothering to hide his disappointment. "We need to discuss your future in this program." The other candidates avoided eye contact as they packed up their gear, the awkward silence broken only by the occasional whispered comment. Amanda cleaned her pistol methodically, her movements precise and professional despite her results. "Don't worry about it," offered Specialist Rodriguez, one of the few candidates who had been kind to her. "Maybe flying's just more your thing than shooting." Amanda nodded silently, but they both knew the truth. Failing weapons qualification repeatedly could end her Army career before it truly began. At precisely 1 p.m., Amanda reported to Chief Jenkins' office, her uniform impeccable despite the morning's humidity and her own anxiety. She knocked sharply on the doorframe. "Enter," Jenkins called. The office was spartanly furnished, a desk, 3 chairs, and walls covered with aviation certificates, unit photos, and the distinctive patches of the units Jenkins had served with during his 22 years of service. "Take a seat, Davis." Amanda sat rigidly, her posture perfect, even in the face of what she knew was coming. "I've been reviewing your file," Jenkins began, opening a folder on his desk. "Your academic scores are excellent. Your flight aptitude tests are in the top percentile. Your physical fitness is exemplary." He looked up, his expression stern. "But you can't shoot worth a damn, and that's a problem." "Yes, Chief," Amanda acknowledged. "I've had candidates struggle before, but never like this. It's almost as if—" He paused, studying her face. "It's almost as if you're deliberately missing." Amanda's eyes widened slightly, but she remained silent. "The review board meets tomorrow. Colonel Harrison will be there, along with Major Winters and myself. I'll be honest with you, Davis, I'm having trouble justifying why we should keep you in the program." Amanda swallowed hard. "I understand, Chief." Jenkins leaned back in his chair. "What I don't understand is how someone with your background even got this far with such poor marksmanship skills. Your file says you grew up in rural Montana. Didn't your father teach you to shoot?" A shadow crossed Amanda's face. "My father wasn't around much, Chief." Jenkins nodded, then gestured to a small electric fan oscillating in the corner. "Mind turning that up? Air conditioning's been spotty all week." Amanda stood and crossed to the fan. As she reached for the dial, the sleeve of her uniform rode up slightly, revealing the edge of a colorful design on her forearm. Jenkins' eyes narrowed. "What's that on your arm, Davis?" Amanda quickly pulled her sleeve down. "Nothing important, Chief." "Show me," he ordered, his tone leaving no room for refusal. Reluctantly, Amanda rolled up her sleeve, revealing an intricate tattoo of an AH-64 Apache helicopter in flight, with distinctive unit markings and a small string of numbers beneath it. Jenkins' expression changed instantly. He stood up, staring at the tattoo. "Where did you get that?" "It's just a tattoo, Chief. I've always wanted to fly Apaches." "Bullshit," Jenkins said flatly. "Those are the exact markings of the 12207th Aviation Regiment, 1st Air Cavalry Brigade. And those numbers," he leaned closer, "that's a tail number, the RO4, the RO5, 4 to 6, 7. Amanda remained silent, her eyes now fixed on a point just over Jenkins' shoulder. "That Apache was shot down in Kandahar Province in 2018, Jenkins continued, his voice quieter now. "I lost friends in that bird." "With respect, Chief, I don't know what you're talking about." Jenkins walked back to his desk and picked up the phone. "This is Chief Warrant Officer Jenkins. I need to speak to Colonel Harrison immediately." After a brief pause, he continued, "Sir, I need you to run a classified personnel check. Name, Amanda Davis." Another pause. "Yes, sir, I'll hold." The silence stretched between them as Jenkins waited, his eyes never leaving Amanda's face. "I see," he finally said into the phone. "Yes, sir, I understand. She'll be there." He hung up and stared at Amanda for a long moment. "The review board has been canceled," he said finally. "You're to report to Colonel Harrison's office immediately." "May I ask why, Chief?" "No, you may not." Jenkins' tone had changed completely. There was now a formality, almost a deference, that hadn't been there before. "Report to the Colonel. He's expecting you." 20 minutes later, Amanda stood at attention in Colonel Harrison's office, facing not only the Colonel, but also two men in civilian attire, whom she had never seen before. "At ease, Davis," Colonel Harrison said, his tone surprisingly gentle. Or should I say, Captain Davis? The two civilians exchanged glances. "Sir," Amanda maintained her cover. "We've confirmed your identity," one of the civilians said, opening a laptop. "Captain Amanda Davis, Army Intelligence Support Activity, currently on special assignment under Operation Nightshade." Colonel Harrison looked both impressed and confused. "Would someone like to tell me why one of the Army's elite intelligence officers is pretending to be a struggling flight candidate at my training facility?" The second civilian stepped forward. "Colonel, what we're about to discuss is classified top secret. Your Chief Jenkins is being briefed separately due to his identification of Captain Davis." 3 months ago, the first civilian continued, "we discovered a potential security breach involving the sale of classified flight training protocols to foreign entities. The source was traced to Fort Rucker, specifically to someone with access to the advanced flight training programs." Amanda finally spoke. "My mission was to identify the source by integrating into the candidate pool. My cover needed to be convincing but not exceptional, hence the poor marksmanship. It kept attention away from my real skills while allowing me to observe all aspects of the training program. The deliberately poor shooting was to prevent being fast-tracked through the program. the second civilian added. Captain Davis needed to remain with the main candidate group to observe all potential suspects. Colonel Harrison shook his head in disbelief. And the tattoo seems like a risky choice for a covert operative. It wasn't part of my cover, sir, Amanda admitted. It's personal. I was the pilot of that Apache's wingman aircraft. We took heavy fire, but I couldn't prevent what happened to them. The tattoo is to remember the crew we lost. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. You're an Apache pilot? Colonel Harrison asked finally. With combat experience? Yes, sir. 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Syria, over 1,500 flight hours, 400 in combat conditions. The colonel's expression was unreadable. And now you're with IONSCOM's activity unit. That's quite a career trajectory. The mission required someone who understood both aviation operations and intelligence gathering, sir. The first civilian cleared his throat. Colonel, we're approaching a critical phase of the operation. Captain Davis has identified 3 potential suspects, and we believe a transfer of information is imminent. What do you need from me? Harrison asked. We need to stage an incident, Amanda explained. My cover has been compromised with Chief Jenkins, but we can use that. Tomorrow, I need to be publicly dismissed from the program for failing qualification. That will force our target to accelerate their timeline, thinking security is being tightened. Colonel Harrison nodded slowly. And then, the second civilian said, we catch them in the act. The next morning, the candidates assembled on the range for another day of training. Chief Jenkins arrived with Colonel Harrison, both looking unusually serious. Attention, Jenkins called, and the formation snapped to order. Colonel Harrison stepped forward. Yesterday, one of your fellow candidates failed to meet the minimum standards required of an Army aviator. His voice carried across the range. Normally, this would result in remedial training. However, given the repeated nature of these failures, a different course of action has been deemed necessary. Amanda stood at the end of the formation, her expression carefully neutral. Davis, front and center, Harrison ordered. As Amanda marched forward, she could feel the eyes of every candidate on her. This was the moment they had planned, her public dismissal that would bait their target into action. Candidate Davis has demonstrated an inability to master basic soldiering skills, Harrison continued. As such, she is being removed from the aviation program, effective immediately. Murmurs rippled through the formation. While everyone had known Amanda struggled with marksmanship, actual dismissal was rare. Davis, surrender your candidate badge to Chief Jenkins. Amanda removed the badge from her uniform and handed it over, her movements crisp and professional despite the supposed disgrace. Dismissed, Harrison said coldly. As Amanda turned to leave, Chief Jenkins called out, Hold on, Davis. Before you go, let's give you one last chance to redeem yourself. This wasn't part of the plan. Amanda hesitated, looking questioningly at Colonel Harrison, who appeared equally surprised. One final qualification attempt, Jenkins said, holding out an M9 pistol, right here, right now. 20 rounds, 16 hits to pass. Prove us wrong. The candidates watched in silence as Amanda reluctantly took the weapon. She knew she needed to maintain her cover until she was off the range, but Jenkins was forcing her hand. Chief, this isn't necessary, Colonel Harrison began. With respect, sir, I think it is, Jenkins replied. I have a theory about candidate Davis. Amanda checked the pistol. It was loaded with live ammunition. She stepped up to the firing line, aware that the entire plan could be compromised. She had to make a decision, maintain her cover and deliberately fail again, or reveal her true skills and potentially jeopardize months of intelligence work. As she raised the pistol, she caught Jenkins' eye. The slight nod he gave her conveyed a clear message. He understood more than he had let on. Amanda took a deep breath, assumed a perfect firing stance, and emptied the magazine in rapid succession. 20 rounds, 20 hits, each one drilling the center mass of the target with surgical precision. The range fell silent. As I suspected, Jenkins said quietly, no one with a 12207th tattoo shoots like a first-day recruit. Colonel Harrison stepped forward quickly. Candidates, you are dismissed to your next training station. Chief Jenkins will supervise. Davis with me. As the stunned candidates filed away, Harrison led Amanda to a secluded area behind the range office. What the hell was that, he demanded. The plan was for a quiet dismissal. Jenkins forced my hand, sir, Amanda replied. but I think he did us a favor. How exactly? Look, Amanda nodded toward the formation, where one candidate had broken away from the group and was hurriedly walking toward the administrative buildings, repeatedly checking over his shoulder. Specialist Torres, Harrison observed, one of your suspects? My primary suspect, Amanda confirmed. And now he's panicking, exactly as we want him to. Harrison keyed his radio. Surveillance team, be advised. Target is moving toward admin, likely headed for the secure servers. Operation is now active. Within hours, Torres was in custody, caught attempting to download classified flight training protocols for the Army's next-generation attack helicopter. A search of his quarters revealed encrypted communication devices and evidence of payments from a foreign military intelligence service. 3 days later, Amanda sat in a secure briefing room with Colonel Harrison, Chief Jenkins, and the 2 intelligence officials. Operation successful, the senior intelligence officer confirmed. Torres has been singing like a bird since we showed him the evidence. His foreign handlers have been identified, and counterintelligence operations are already underway to feed them misinformation. Excellent work, Captain Davis, Harrison said, though I'm still not happy about how your cover was blown. Jenkins shifted uncomfortably. With respect, sir, I recognized the tattoo immediately. That Apache crew were friends of mine. When I saw their tail number on Davis's arm, I knew something wasn't adding up. It was my mistake, Amanda acknowledged. The tattoo should have been covered more carefully. Actually, the intelligence officer interjected, it worked out perfectly. Torres made his move because he saw the sudden interest in Davis. He thought security was being tightened and panicked. Colonel Harrison nodded slowly. So what happens now, Captain? Amanda exchanged glances with the intelligence officials. Now I go back to my regular duties, sir. Which are? Still classified, I'm afraid. As the meeting concluded and they prepared to leave, Jenkins approached Amanda. That tattoo, he said quietly. You really were there that day. Amanda nodded, her expression solemn. Wingman aircraft. We took RPG fire from 3 directions. I couldn't get to them in time. Jenkins studied her face. You know it wasn't your fault, right? That's what they tell me, Amanda replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The pilot of that Apache was my best friend, Jenkins said. John Mercer. He always said the same thing about you, that you were the best pilot he'd ever flown with. Amanda's composure faltered for the first time. You knew? Not until I saw the tattoo, but Mercer used to write to me about this hotshot female pilot in his unit. Said if anything ever happened to him, she'd be the one to carry on. Amanda blinked rapidly, fighting back unexpected tears. He'd be proud, you know, Jenkins continued, of what you've become, of what you're doing. As Amanda walked out of Fort Rucker for the last time, the weight of her hidden identity felt slightly lighter. Her cover was blown, her mission complete, but the memory of that Apache crew and the promise she'd made to their memory remained as permanent as the tattoo on her arm.